Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in as we continue in our online creative writing course here. So we've just done a kind of a fun unit, I think, with the significant objects, the tchotchkes discussion. So we were looking at this book that is, tells the tale of what is really an experiment in increasing the value of an object by writing a story behind it. And so we had the opportunity then to, find our own little objects and write stories that imbued these things with meaning. So it's a great little exercise because you're really limited in terms of space, but you also want to tell this intrinsically interesting story because, of course, that's what makes the object valuable or more valuable. So there was lots of really great stories, lots of really funky objects people found. I don't know if people actually own these things or they just found them online, but either way, lots of strange stuff out there. And I think if you read through a number of these, what you might have found is the most effective ones for this kind of a project were stories that didn't provide a kind of personal tale about, I received this when I was a kid from my grandmother. So that is that's a personal meaning that makes that object valuable, at least to that individual. And especially if you read the example from the book excerpt, what really is kind of intriguing for people is when it's a story that doesn't just provide a kind of personal connection to the object, but tells this odd and captivating and slightly weird tale about its history of being passed from people to people and existing in these exotic locations and under exotic circumstances and all that kind of stuff. So I think some people went more the personal meaning route, whereas others really developed more of that exotic and captivating type of a story. And some people mix those two together. But we now move into Unit 5, which is our first workshop, which is really, like I've said before, kind of the heart of the course. So we've done some work with reading other stories, thinking about how language works, both in terms of, metaphor, simile, analogy, doing some writing exercises on a fairly small scale, like the significant objects thing. But now you're writing your own short story. There's no limits in terms of, or no requirements in terms of, style necessarily, or content, or subject matter. So you're really left to your own devices, which makes it harder to start, but much more meaningful on the end of it. So it's not so prescriptive on my end. The only real requirement or limitation is, of course, in terms of word count, largely because you, for the workshop, are sharing your work with a group of your peers here in the course. And so it's just kind of untenable to have really long, short stories that people are trying to read and then provide feedback on. But we're into the portion of the course where just getting things done technically or practically right through Blackboard, on time, following directions, basic stuff like that, is really, really crucial. So our due date for posting your work, for posting your short story as a file, is Monday, September 24th. So once you've done it, go back into the discussion board to make sure you put it in the right spot. It shows up as a file. It's the right kind of file that people can actually open and read. And then notice that the due date number 2 as part of this unit is for you to provide feedback to all of the group members who posted their work on time, so that you're giving feedback on their short stories. And of course, you're getting feedback on your own work. So you can see how, obviously, for a course like this, getting and giving that feedback is really one of the most important things that we do. We have a couple of other workshops throughout the course. And so again, getting feedback on your writing is really the reason that most people will take a course like this. So to improve your writing, but also to kind of get some sense of, is what I'm doing effective? Is the meaning, coming through to people? So you have a kind of readership that you're addressing here. One of the things to note, and again, it's just sort of practical, this is the way it is that in terms of feedback on your writing, most of it will come from the peers in your workshop groups. So I'll try to provide some overarching feedback, but just in terms of time and the sheer number of students that I have to work with, I can't give you really line by line, page by page kind of feedback I understand that that would be great and useful, but it's just, I just don't have the time for it. I wish I did. So I'll try to give you, useful feedback, but remember that your role in the workshop is first and foremost to be giving your group members that kind of really analytical and closely detailed feedback that that people have taken the course to get. And even if you feel like you're not a sophisticated or experienced writer, you're still probably a pretty experienced reader, which is really what matters in terms of providing that workshop feedback. So it really doesn't matter how confident a writer you are, you can still give confident feedback in terms of your reader reception of a particular work. So if I just click myself into Unit 5 here, obviously you want to remind yourself of the due dates, but there's some step-by-step instructions here as far as posting your work. I want to make sure that you go back and read the How the Workshops Work section, which has basic stuff about some do's and don'ts and naming your file and just that kind of stuff, but also some of the grading guidelines and what kind of feedback you can usefully provide. There's a note on feedback here, but also in the How the Workshops Work. Sort of a reminder that you want to provide substantial and useful commentary for the people that are in your workshop group. And of course, you'll find those in Unit 5, which I'm just getting back into. There looks like there's 4 different groups. Post your work as a file, that's important, post it on time. And so for most people, you'll be providing feedback to at least 3 other people, maybe 4 if you're in group 4, but again, you're never sure if people are going to post on time or how many people, even though they're enrolled in the course, are still active, so it's a little bit hard to plan precisely that way. Okay, so first and foremost, though, check those due dates and make sure you do things correctly in terms of just following basic instructions and, of course, on time. Enter into the workshop with a kind of generous spirit. You want to give productive and meaningful feedback, which means that you can't just say you loved something or that you didn't think it really worked. You have to take that one step further and really say why. So what I'd like to see is people getting a file back with highlighted portions, comments within the document, something that is really reflects a kind of active engagement on the reader's part, not just, yeah, I skimmed it and it was fine. That's not very useful for you to get as a writer, so you can't really do that as a reader and then expect something different from the other people in your group. Okay, if you have any questions, be in touch with me, and that's about it. Follow those directions and make sure you're doing stuff on time, and I'll talk to everybody soon.